Yo guys, what's good? Today I'm going to be commentating round 2 of the Junior League summer season here at TeamSport Leicester, and the video is titled Defensive Masterclass for a reason, and you'll see that when we get into the race because it was crazy and it's definitely worth watching. A few things to mention: I'll be using 2 camera angles, one on board as you can see right now and one off board which is recorded from the side. It will just give 2 perspectives, and where my camera can't pick up what's happening behind me, the off-board camera will be able to show you so you can visually see what was happening behind me in the race. In addition to that, I used subtitles in my hot lap video, and I think it was just a really nice touch. It probably helped people understand and hear what I was saying clearer, as well as making the video look more professional, so I'm going to be keeping them in all of my videos from now on. Here is the format for tonight: F1 style knockout quali, in which I made it to Q3. So for qualifying, I'm just going to show my Q3 lap. One thing I do like here at the Leicester track is that they constantly switch up the formats rather than just sticking to what it says on paper, and I think it makes for really good racing, especially as juniors where the field is so tight. Having different formats can really mix it up and make it really interesting. And lastly, I really just want to urge you guys to consider subscribing. Haven't really pushed it as much in my previous videos. I've been trying to get the content out and reach an audience, but now I'm at the point where I might be actually gaining an audience consistently watching my videos. So I really urge you to consider liking, subscribing, commenting. So without further ado, I'm going to get straight onto my Q3 lap and then we'll get into the race. So here we go into the race build up then from the pit lane, starting P5 on the grid. I was very happy with my quali result because I didn't expect to even get through to Q3, and my kart was not the best anyway, so didn't have high expectations. But I got into Q3, came last in Q3, but it's fine because that's 5th on the grid, and I think for the first time in Junior League I'm actually on the inside, starting on the inside, so that already gives me an advantage. One very serious thing to mention is that this kart was absolutely horrible. I mean, it was atrocious, and you'll see when we get into the race, like, the steering was so offset, like it was so off center, it was unbelievable, and the revs in the hairpins was so low, like seriously it was horrible, and that's why this race turned into a defensive masterclass. So for that reason, this race was extremely difficult for me, and you're just going to have to watch and see what happens. So yeah, with all that said, let's get on to the race now. I'm sure you don't want to watch this build up, I'm sure you actually want to see the content. So yeah, let's get into it. So as the lights turn on, and we go to 5 red lights, and we go green. Get a decent getaway, jump up to P4 on the inside, and he tries to stick around the outside, but I actually get bumped from behind there, so it cuts off his path, so it favoured me a little bit. But actually, like, it was really weird and knocked my helmet off my head slightly. It was a bit dodgy. Anyway, as I mentioned, this kart was like absolutely atrocious. So like, it can really be seen here as already the top 3 have pulled a little bit of a gap, and that would just be the repeating theme of the video. So you know, get used to it. Get used to it. It's not going to go away. The horrible kart, the atrocious kart, I don't even know anymore. I mean, in this part of the race, it was hard to tell whether it was a kart problem or the tyres were just cold. So what I was doing was just trying to follow the leaders as close as I could, but as you can see, they're just pulling a gap, like, especially on the hairpins. And obviously I said the low revs were one of the really bad things about this kart. So especially on the hairpins, they're just pulling massive gaps. Now when I think about like my calmer side of my mental, I was just trying to get into the race, but the steering especially was very apparent from the get-go, so that offset is just really annoying. I'm just having to fight with the kart constantly, even on the straights. But for the first few laps, I'll just let it play out. Not gonna talk too much. Please let me know if you think the off-board camera is useful. I think especially in this race it was, because I was fighting people behind me really, and obviously my camera's facing forwards. But yeah, gapped the leaders were pulling. I already knew I was off pace down to kart really, so from the get-go it was always going to be a defensive race. But yeah, one thing I mean, a couple of things I'm proud of is, firstly, I thought my laps were fairly consistent, even though they were a lot slower than usual. And obviously my mental state was very calm in the race. You know, there was never really moments where I was panicking at all. And I actually drove very well defensively. Around here, I don't think it's too hard to really drive defensively anyway. But keeping my lines really tidy, like it was actually like quite a hard race, because the kart just didn't do what I would have expected it to do compared to the other karts. So I was actually having to completely change my driving to suit this kart and get the best out of it in this race. Most important thing was definitely getting that jump on P4 on the start, because otherwise I would not have been able to overtake him, that's for sure. I would have instantly dropped back off. So by putting myself up and then having them behind me really helped. So definitely positives to take away, even though by this point like, I already knew like P4 was going to be the highest that I was going to finish. The leader's just gone. So yeah, I'll skip forward a lap or so now, so then we can get some more interesting stuff, as it was just me lapping defensively, I suppose. So as we come on hairpin 3 now, we start our ascent up the ramp. Just as we come around here, James on the inside has a little look and he tries to hang it, but luckily I had the inside for the next corner, and that was the first real move or sign that I saw that they're actually trying to get past me. And I think he ends up actually getting a contact warning for that, because it kind of took me offline, but for me didn't really have any implications, so it's all good. And that was one thing that I was going to have to get used to, because it happened a couple of times. And with the train forming behind me now, I knew that he was going to be under pressure from the guy behind him, so he's only trying to overtake me because he doesn't want to get taken himself, and obviously I'm a lot slower, so maybe desperation or panic setting in for him at this point, because he's right in the middle of the train. Being at the front of the train, I suppose you have the peace of mind that you're controlling the pace. And I mean, I was driving as fast as I could, but I was still controlling the pace. Quick yellow flag, which actually turns to a red flag, because I think there was an incident at the top section. It's only a brief red flag, but now obviously we're going to have to do a restart, and they're going to be bunched behind me again. So could go wrong. This could go very wrong. Anyway, I'll skip on to the restart now. So here we go now for the restart. Let's come down the ramp. Left a little bit of a gap to the guys in front, because I didn't know how they were going to move. As we go green, had a little bit of a run here. Tried to go for the inside, but Thomas chops it up anyway. And then as you can see on the left side, Victor there on my inside absolutely dived down that train. I think he went from about 8th to 5th. Like, yeah, crazy. So props to him, because that was a great move. It looked pretty clean as well, and the only thing that I was worried about was he was going to hit me, but luckily he got it slowed down in time. So as you can see, the field very close together, especially at the back there. I think they're going about 3 or 4 wide. But luckily I kept my P4, and being a lot closer, I was just thinking, could I potentially stick with these guys now? So that's what I was trying my best to do. But yeah, this car has really slow revs out the hairpin for no apparent reason, and when it's such slight things like this, you don't really notice it when you're lapping by yourself. It's only when you've got other drivers, so you can visually see that gap closing so much. So already on lap 2 here, I'm having to go defensive because Victor is he's just got that much more speed than me, because my car's like bogging down so much in the hairpins. And P4 was my sweet spot in this race, because I finished P4 in round 1, and I'll put the results of that up on the screen now, and I also actually got the fastest lap in that race, so there's no doubt I have pace, and I have pace compared to this group. It's just that this car really stopped me from extracting that and having a good race. So I would be more than happy to walk away with another P4 here, because it would be good for my championship points. So Junior League is done over 7 rounds, and they're all spaced out between 2 or 3 weeks, and the 7th round is actually a couple of weeks before the local final. So we'll basically be going from Junior League summer season straight into BIKC, so that would be really good. I think it will just keep it all fresh for all of us and keep the racing good. And just to mention, for the BIKC local final, I am going to be doing a proper video of that, so I'll have like a intro with my face in and all like that, and then we'll do outro, and then obviously got my footage in the middle with commentary as well. So I think that'll be really good to make it a proper video, because it is basically the highlight of the TeamSport calendar, because that's their official nationwide run event. So as you just saw on the digiboard, we've got 20 laps left, and at this point I was hating it. Gonna be honest, I was just hating it, because this was like not good for me at all. I thought about 20-25 laps out of the 35 had passed so far, but no, only 15 have passed. So me knowing that all these guys are lined up behind me, I was not enthusiastic at all. You see Victor there coming in hot, trying to look for a move on me, but luckily he didn't fight it too much and I got away with it. But that kind of set the tone for how the rest of this race was going to go for 20 laps almost. Just him trying to go for moves on me or looks on me, so I knew I really had to keep it tidy and make sure he didn't have any of those opportunities. And yeah, this is why it was a defensive masterclass. The video does not do it justice how firstly horrible this kart was, how fast these guys are, and like how stressful this was. Like these guys, they're quick guys. You know, I do reckon if you actually put the field in equal parts, like the same car, I reckon we would probably have like 0.5 to a second between us, and it's like that most times anyway. So yeah, these guys are extremely quick. I know what they can do. I've raced with most of these guys quite a lot, and as you can see on the off-board camera now, we've got 4 or 5 drivers behind me. So just really got to keep these guys at bay for 20 laps apparently. So was not looking forward to it, and I was just thinking like, am I going to be able to hold on, because this was hard stuff. It was a bit counterintuitive, because any gap that I would gain at the top section or the third hairpin, I would completely lose in the first and second hairpins, just because of those low revs and me having to fight the kart a lot more than they are. So really did not work in my favour. As Victor has another look down the inside again, and at that top section, actually, it's really easy to see when people are going for moves, so whether you're going to fight it or not is actually quite an easy decision to make. So yeah, now driving fully defensive. By this point I knew I can't open the gap at that top section at all. Like, I've got to just keep a really tight line to make sure they know that I'm not giving them any chance. You know, like, this is every lap that I drive, every time we go round here is one lap less than I've got to do it. As we get a brief yellow flag, as you can see on the third hairpin, someone got stuck in the middle bit. So it's very brief. Just go green again on the start finish line. Went defensive into hairpin 1, just to absolutely block off any chance. You know, I was really defending my position a lot. Defensive into hairpin 2. And now I've a bit of breathing room as another yellow flag there. And we go green again. Not really sure what that one was for, but whatever the issue was, they got it sorted very quickly. But both times there went green just on the run up to the hairpin, so it's quite scary, because that's like that can be a very vulnerable position, easy to take while you're at low speed. So yeah, let me know what you guys think about the off-board camera, because obviously if you guys like it, then I'll include it in some of my other videos as well, because it just gives that extra angle, really. See what we look like, because you see what we look like in the karts, so it's good to see what it's like from a spectator's point of view, I suppose. And for this race especially, it's really helping you guys know what's happening in the race, because it's all well me telling you because I was there and I can commentate it, but not so easy for you guys, especially when my camera is not at 361. But yeah, as I've said in a couple of my other videos, that is definitely one thing I'm considering, getting a new GoPro, especially for the camera stabilization, which is probably quite shaky on this, because obviously I'm moving my head and it's an older model, but does the job. It's really good, actually. Victor just again pokes his nose. Didn't really see him as a threat at that time. He was just looking down the inside, but didn't really challenge it. As yeah, I've got four guys queued up behind me now. Come around here, I can definitely see that as they all go flying into hairpin 1 as well. But yeah, main focus, keep Victor behind, because then by keeping Victor behind, I keep the whole train behind. And me being in this kind of vulnerable position, was hoping that they would start fighting themselves. So as we get an instant red flag there, but everyone comes to a complete stop and I just roll forward just so they don't hit me. And I'm not actually sure what happened on this red flag, because one of the other drivers ended up swapping karts, so I'm not sure if she requested a kart change, which I don't even know how she would have done, or staff could see that there was something wrong with our car, like visually. So, but either way, a bit of a more lengthy red flag here, so I'm going to cut onto the restart and get back to the racing. So here we go for restart number 2 then. Getting a lot closer to the guys in front this time. Make sure I would close the gap as much as possible. As we go green, Thomas in front actually gets quite a good drive, so pulls away from me. He's darting left and right, trying to find which way to go. And didn't really feel the threat from the guys behind on the restart, because I felt I had a good getaway anyway. But always good to keep tabs and just know what's happening. And you can see now we're all really close together, so literally anything could happen. But a bit of breathing space this time round, so I can take the full racing line up here at the top. But obviously that breathing space is not going to last long, as we found out from those first couple of stints of the race. Yeah, the hairpin especially, you see how much I'm losing time. Like, there was nothing wrong with that cornering at all, but just losing so much momentum, so much time, so much speed. So yeah, once again settling into my defensive mindset, I suppose. As we've got Victor directly behind me now and James just coming up. I didn't want to go defensive as early as I had to, but you know, I've got to keep my position, and that's all that matters in the race, really. Obviously the fastest lap point is up for grabs, but that was completely off the table. I was probably the slowest or second slowest, third slowest guy on the track in this race, just so that was completely off the table. The only thing I was focused on was keeping my position, because those are the points which are going to count for the championship. So 2 P4s in a row would not do me badly at all. Yeah, top 3 pulling it away very quickly. And you can see now we've got 3 guys behind me. This was definitely a mentally challenging race, and from experience of other Junior League and members events and grid series like that before, I just knew what I had to do, and there was no point complaining about my car because I was going to have it either way. So I think for me the qualifying was definitely the most important part, because me being able to get from P5 up to P4 straight away, you know, that already gave me a bit of relief, because I'd got back into P4 where I finished in the Junior League round 1. And in the Junior League round 1, I genuinely felt that was my deserved position. So to be back in that position and to be performing to a high and consistent standard in Junior League, I was really impressed with, considering that I know these guys have been a lot longer than me. So again, just keeping it really defensive. By this point, I know these guys behind me drive their driving patterns, so I knew what mistakes not to make, just to give them absolutely no chance or no hope of them overtaking me. And I definitely knew that the end of the race was near, so really just pumping out the last few consistent tidy laps. Up at the top section, actually, when you go defensive in a race, you don't lose too much momentum, because then round here you have to flick it in to the 2 apexes anyway, so it's not like there's a long straight like at Warrington, for say, where, you know, your momentum out those final couple of corners can really hurt you, because your speed is instantly killed off here anyway. So yeah, you see Victor actually getting alongside me there out of hairpin 2, and I drag the car out, sweep it to the right a bit, just to make sure there's no chance of him getting close to me. One of them then bumps me through hairpin through and actually gets me quite offline. So, but yeah, I don't know if he just misjudged the corner or someone gave him a bump, but either way it put me offline, and you know, that's tight around there in hairpin 3, so I could have easily gone straight into the wall and lost my position from that. But yeah, just keeping it tidy. The line was the only thing that really mattered, because this car had no power anyway. But yeah, I'm hoping you can see how this was a very like defensive masterclass, and hopefully my insights into what I was thinking during the race has been helpful as well. And having this off-board camera, like I mentioned a couple of times, really good at just helping you guys be able to see what's going on in the race. From me backwards, the field was fairly tightly spread, so yeah, from experience really, I just knew to keep a cool head and just drive defensively, give them no chance, and paid off massively now. Come round the final corner and we've got last lap board, so here we go, this is the last lap. Go slightly defensive into hairpin 1. And by this point I'm just knowing, please keep it tidy, don't mess up. Defensive, fully defensive into hairpin 2. Actually a bit too defensive and broke a bit too early. Tidy round the bridge. Short stamp on the brakes around hairpin 3. Start our ascent up the ramp for the 35th time, I suppose. nice and tight around top section, and now there's really barely any places you can mess up. So flick in, bring it round, take the checkered flag. So there we go. That's my second P4 finish in a row in Junior League. So P4 in round 1, P4 in round 2, which I'll put the results to on the screen now. And yeah, just absolutely like in relief that the race is over now. It was really mentally challenging races. I put my thumbs up to the guys behind. Good race, Victor especially. Very impressed with that. Hairpin 1 send on the restart. So now at the end of the video, I just want to say thank you for watching. If you've made it this far and watched the whole thing. And as I banged on about in the start, please consider subscribing, liking, commenting, everything like that. I found my audience now. I just need to grow the channel. So I hope you've enjoyed this video very, very much. And as I mentioned, more content coming soon, and the BIKC local final in September will have a full vlog. So yeah, till then, hope to see you again soon.